Let's talk about backlogs in the context of SAFe, because there are various backlogs in SAFe. And then let's also talk about deep backlog, DEEP, deep backlog. So in backlogs, if I were to say product backlog is very generic. In the Scrum context, you have a product backlog, you have a sprint backlog. But whereas in the context of SAFe, there are a bunch of other backlogs also. Let's take a look at that. When I say product backlog, I'm using a very, very generic context. When I say product backlog, it's a laundry list of items. And visualize this, right? So you go to, in your home, you may have this laundry basket. Your laundry basket has pants, shirts, towels, and everything else. So your laundry basket has a bunch of items in there, and everything has a place. Similarly, when I say product backlog, it's a laundry list of items. It could be epics, features, stories, so you name it. That whole block is called a product backlog. But if you want to specify a particular backlog, you want to call it as a specific backlog there, then you need to qualify it. You need to specifically call out what you're trying to refer to. Visualize this. So there is a big pond, a fish pond. There are a bunch of different types of fishes there. Some are small size, some are big size, but they're all housed in the pond only. Now, if you're looking for a specific fish, you go to a pond, you go with a specific fish net. So similarly, when we are talking about portfolio in SAFe, we have portfolio level epics, enabler epics. Epics and enabler epics are at the portfolio level, and they are in the housed in the portfolio backlog. So portfolio backlog is a subset of the big product backlog, the generic product backlog. Portfolio backlog is owned by LPM, Lean Portfolio Management. Then comes the capabilities. Capabilities in SAFe are in the large solution area. So capabilities, again, I'm going to the fish pond with a different net now, and I'm looking for only capabilities and enabler capabilities. These capabilities sometimes are also called solution epics, but no matter what, we are looking for only capabilities and enabler capabilities, and that subset of the big product backlog is called solution train backlog. Solution train backlog is owned by the solution manager. And next comes the features, then enabler features. They go into a backlog called art backlog, Agile Release Train backlog. So I'm changing the fishnet one more time. I'm looking for a different type of a fish now. I'm looking for features, enabler features. This subset of the big product backlog is called art backlog. Art backlog is at the essential level, owned by the product manager. So then comes the team level. In the team level, you have different work items, stories, enabler stories, spikes, refactors, bugs, defects, and tasks. Again, visualize this. I'm going to a fish pond. I'm looking for a small fish there, small items. So this subset of the backlog is called team backlog. So team backlog is owned by a product owner, and then there'll be multiple team backlogs. There'll be multiple teams in an agile SAFe context. So there are multiple product owners owning their own team backlog. And if those were the vertically sliced backlogs, and you can also imagine that there will be some backlogs horizontally sliced. So similar to Scrum, there is a sprint backlog, iteration backlog. So you have all the items that you want to finish in one single iteration are there in an iteration backlog. And you may also have a PI backlog. So PI backlog means all the items that you may have in the PI, you want to finish in a particular PI, or in PI backlog. So simply put, stories roll up to a feature, features roll up to a capability, capabilities roll up to an epic. So if you have to visualize this, visualize a typical old-fashioned file cabinet. The file cabinet is considered as a portfolio. It has multiple drawers in there. So if you pull one drawer out, so that is considered as an epic. In that epic, in the drawer, there'll be multiple red hanging folders. Each hanging folder is considered as capability or a solution to an epic. Within each red hanging folder, so there are brown manila folders, bunch of them. So each manila folder is considered as a feature or a program epic. But if you open the brown manila folder, you have a bunch of white sheets in there. So those white sheets are user stories. So that means user stories are housed in a feature manila folder, and manila folders are housed in a red hanging folder, and they are housed in a drawer. So feature stories roll up to features, features roll up to capabilities, capabilities roll up to epic. So those are the work items in safe, and those are the backlogs. Now let's talk about a concept called deep backlog. DEEP, deep backlog. So now that we know the definition of a product backlog, which is a laundry list of items. So let's say I'm a customer and I have a Mr. John is a product owner. So I walk up to John, the product owner. I will ask him, hey, John, can we build a time machine? At the first place, he will think that I'm a crazy guy. So there is no way we can build a time machine in the current world that we are in. But since he knows the definition of a product backlog, and I'm the customer, I'm asking, so he will make a place for time machine. So he'll create work item in the backlog and he'll dump it in the bottom of the backlog. The next day, the customer again, go to John, the product owner, will ask him, hey, John, can we have lunch with Jeff Bezos? Another activity, another work item needed. So what he will do is he knows that lunch with Jeff Bezos, when he becomes a first trillionaire, of course, has more probability of occurring than finishing a time machine. So what he's going to do is he will put the work item lunch with Jeff Bezos when he becomes the first trillionaire of the world. Will he put it on top of time machine? So what is indicating to us is the probability of doing lunch with Jeff Bezos is more than building a time machine. Then like that, the product owner builds the backlog from bottom to top. So the stuff on the top is detailed appropriately. What does it mean? So stuff on the top is very finely, granularly articulated. So the stuff that you want to do immediately, let's say in the current sprint or sprint after, the user stories are written very nicely. So they have acceptance criteria. They're written as a user, I want to show that. So they are everything detailed appropriately. And then next comes the E, emergent. So backlogs are always emergent. Here also, I want to offer an example, a real life example here. I used to have a friend, I'll change her name. Her name is, let's say, Mary. Okay. So I was an RT at that time. I was having a lunch in a cafeteria. She came to me and said, hey, can I have lunch with you guys? Okay, I said, well, why not? Welcome, have lunch. And then she was carrying in her hand a white spiral binder. You visualize, remember, we used to have white spiral binders. And then I asked her, hey, Mary, what is that you have in your hand? And she said, this is my backlog. And I said, can I take a look? So I took the white binder from her hand and threw it in the trash. She really got mad at me and said, why are you throwing my backlog? I just printed it. I just said that, yes, because you printed it, I threw it. Because you're not supposed to print a backlog. The moment you print the backlog, it is stale. So your backlogs are always emergent. Somebody's adding a user story, somebody's adding a task, somebody's estimating something, somebody's adding a feature and all. So your backlog is never static. Your backlog is always emergent. So do not print a backlog. The moment you print, the backlog is stale. So your backlog has to be always emergent. Then comes estimated. Oh, you can always ask me, how can we estimate the size of a time machine? Yeah, obviously, there is no way you can estimate the time of a time machine, how long it takes, but you have a big number, call it as infinity, or call it as 20,000, 100,000, who cares? But the other items like lunch with Jeff Bezos, that is definitely not infinity. It's a finite number. You can give 10,000, 100,000, whatever number that is. So, but stuff on the top of the backlog. So you have to estimate those user stories using adjusted Fibonacci series. So they are estimated properly on the top. So D, E, E. Then comes prioritized. So is there any way we can prioritize the stuff on the bottom? There's no way because we don't know. We may not even do it in our lifetime, time machine. But stuff on the bottom, stuff on the top has to be prioritized in the 1, 2, 3, 4 order. Why? Remember, we are dealing with agile teams. Agile teams are self-organized, self-managed. They may not come and ask you, the product owner, and seek your permission to start working on the user story. So they kind of assume that you, the product owner, may have maintained deep backlogs, so the stuff on the top can be pulled and start working on them. So you have to order in that, prioritize the list in that order 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is where we call as a product owner, you take pride in keeping your backlogs deep, DEEP, detailed appropriately, emergent, estimated, prioritized. So that is the concept of a deep backlog.